everybody. Welcome to another Clown-versation. Happy Friday. Where are you today? I'd love to know. Drop into the chat and say hi. I'm very curious with these Clown-versations, where people tune in from. Clowning is an international sport. I don't know why I said sport. It's not a sport. It's, oh, you guys hear that? I heard myself coming back at myself in a weird phantasmagorical way. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be talking to the amazing Joe DePaul, and he's going to be here in just a minute. If you're new to the Clown-versations and to the Clown Spirit channel, you're so welcome. It's so wonderful to have you here. Please hit the subscribe button down there, share this with your friends, give us a like, jump into the chat and say hi, and I'll be back in just a moment with Mr. Joe DePaul. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a clown-versation. All right. Hello again, everybody. Good to see people jumping into the chat there. We've got Joanna. Hi, Joanna Bassi, all the way from Germany. And Jubilee Rose. Ilka. Good to see you guys. You know, the chat is a great place to say hi and also to ask questions of our interviewee, who today is Joe DePaul, and I'll be introducing him in just a second. But first, I just want to mention briefly that tomorrow we have in Clown Spirit Village a masterclass, which you are invited to. Now, Clown Spirit Village is a community, it's a support network, it's a place where we feed your love of clowning and your desire to bring more of clowning into your life. You know, for many people, Clown Spirit Village is a lifeline, because maybe you don't have clown workshops or groups where you live. Maybe, you know, there isn't the right kind of offering for you in person just at the moment, either geographically or financially or whatever. And what we do here is we offer a space where you can be fed with information, inspiration, practice, community, support, coaching, a whole range of things for people of all levels of experience, and whether you're a performer wanting to go professional, you're already in that space, or maybe you're just intrigued about clowning, you just heard about it and you just want to know more about it, and it seems like it might be for you, something that you want to bring more into your life. Clown Spirit Village offers, I think, a wealth of opportunity and resources, no matter where you are in that scale. And tomorrow we have a masterclass with the amazing Raquel Gendry, who's originally from Ecuador. She's actually based in Spain now, but she is a healthcare clown, a hospital clowning. It's a wonderful, rich area of clowning with a long history. And she's going to be teaching a session which is called The Path of Play, Interventions for Medical Clowns. It's a practical masterclass that presents this proven model for intervention in vulnerable spaces such as hospitals. And this is known as the Path of Play. And it's backed by 19 years of continuous practice by Red Nose's foundation in Ecuador that Raquel founded, but also tested in the US and in France. Raquel is the head of Red Noses with more than 270 clown doctors that she's trained, accompanying over 368,000 people in hospitals. She's done it all, and she's a fantastic trainer, and she's going to be giving this 2.5-hour masterclass tomorrow on the Clown Spirit Village platform. I'll put it into the chat, a website if you want to check it out. In order to take that masterclass, it's straightforward. You have to join the village. There are different tiers. There's a sliding scale to fit with your budget. And I always say to people, even if the lowest tier available doesn't work for you, just get in touch with me, because we'd rather that you joined and took advantage of these opportunities than didn't for financial reasons. So if you've got limitations, please just get in touch with me and we'll make it happen. It's so important that we make clowning available, equally accessible to everybody around the world. All you need is an internet connection. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that you may think clowning is not possible online, but I beg to differ because I've seen it. It's awesome. And it does work because clowns work wherever you put them. That's the whole point of clowning. They're not limited. They are unlimited. They play, they work their way into the fabric of life and of society. And this virtual environment is just another area, another space that we've created in which clowns can have fun and play and intervene. So get online and enjoy Clown Spirit Village. I'll be putting that link into the chat later on. But now to the main dish of the day. And it really is a dish, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited. I don't know where that came from. I'm very excited to present today Joe DePaul. He is a Meta Award-winning actor turned international clown. He was the star of the original premiere performance of Water for Elephants. He has performed and directed clowning within multiple Cirque du Soleil shows, including Car and Drawn to Life. He's toured across Europe with Los Galindos, and he's done a whole lot more in big tops, theaters, and he is an awesome all-round teacher, and he's going to tell us more about that when he comes on, which is right now. Welcome, Joe DePaul. Oh, wait. That's not right. You should be big, and I should be small. Actually, let's do this. Yay!
Wow.
Okay, settle down. It's just Joe DePaul. Just Joe DePaul, everybody. Settle down. Okay, that's better. Yay! Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Barnaby. Thank you.
So good to have you here. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. I really think what you're doing is wonderful. It's a wonderful resource center that you're making for activities and discussions about clowning.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. You know, when I hear people, you know, such as yourself, who are important clowns, saying that it's important what we're doing here, it's very gratifying. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I would love to know more about you, Joe. But first, where are you today? Like, what city, what part of the world are you in?
I live in Montreal. I'm based in Montreal. I'm a Canadian. I grew up in Ontario and then eventually moved to Montreal for my theater studies and have moved around, but returned to live in Montreal. So
Montreal is kind of like I feel it's almost like the Mecca of clowning, really. It seems to be like there's a lot of clowns and cool clowning going on in Montreal. Like, is that true, or is that just my...
No, I think that there's a major history for circus coming out of Montreal, and of course clown being part of an important part of circus tradition. There's for a long time there wasn't so many clowns in Quebec, but a short history that I know of is that with the Expo of Montreal in '67 and the Olympics, that's when clowns street performance started to emerge a little more solidly, and with the birth of Cirque du Soleil, there came a whole generation of circus artists, and the circus school opened, and it really was transformative. And now you've got a lot of large companies and medium companies that tour the world coming out of Montreal, and there is government cultural support for circus, not just art. That's really helpful.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, gosh, Canada. Thank goodness for Canada is all I can say.
I think so,
you know, the enlightened there are still some parts of the world where the arts is valued and funded, and Canada is one of those. So,
well, and Montreal too is this sort of doorway to non-English Europe, like so
yeah.
you have this kind of hybrid culture and open-mindedness towards and more contact with maybe French companies or European companies, where English Canada has more contact with what's going on in the United States or London.
Yeah, I was there in Montreal quite recently, and it did feel like I'd stepped into Europe. It was really delightful. Joe, so how, this is always kind of my first question, because it's always so fascinating. What was it that drew you to clown in the first place? Like, had you been a clown? Your bio talks about you being an actor turned clown. So was it quite a recent thing, or does your connection with clowning go back?
I think, well, it goes like, I started officially clowning in 1999 with Cirque du Soleil. That was the first job. But prior to that, I was an actor. I had studied acting. If you go way back, my asked if I wanted to play hockey, and I said no. So that's when I started to do theater. But that's way back. But then, when I was a young professional actor, I found that between contracts, I would make my own shows. I would make my own skits, and they were tending to be physical comedy, generally speaking, or myself working my way through any kind of developing my own skills in front of an audience with direct rapport. And I would host cabarets and just do anything from performance art to spoken word or whatever came to me. And I ended up enjoying that kind of work sort of more. And I remember saying to a friend one night, if I can do this and make a living at this, I'd like to do this more. And
what do you think it was about that appealed to you more than sort of more conventional acting?
I think the writing aspect of it, that I was doing my own work, that the skills and talent required to be an actor are very honorable. You are honing yourself to be a great interpreter of a playwright's text. And I was also, I'm a little person, and I think at points I was going up against a wall where people say, you're very talented, but you'll never play Romeo, or you'll never be able to, I wouldn't be able to. I would lose casting opportunities because of look, especially with film and television. It was, that was a challenge. And I just sort of, because of that, respected that kind of show business less, and just knew that there was more out there. And I mean, there was a time I didn't have work, and I saw an ad in the paper for Cirque du Soleil looking for tall, fat, skinny, short character types to come and audition. And I signed up and I auditioned and made it. Well, can I tell a little story too? Is sort of to show you the things I was doing right before that moment. Colleague and I formed the Montreal Men's Dance Club, or the Montreal Men's Dance Company. And it was just two of us. And we were just improvising and making kind of these strange, mythical, folkloric dances. And they were, we didn't realize it, but they were very clowny and very, very, very physical comedy. But we were trying our best to dance. And that's what I brought to my Cirque du Soleil audition. And then out of that audition, they narrowed it down to like a few people, and we were put on a talent bank. And then Michel Dallaire was the clown director of Dralion, which premiered in 1999 in Montreal. And so he did a workshop of 4 days to let the casting people watch how he would work with clowns, and maybe they can choose some of the company out of those workshops. And that workshop was transformative for me. The way he taught, the way he was pushing me and all of us, but me in particular, there was just mind-blowing concepts. I mean, I have to just say, there was things I was doing that were funny, and I would stop, and he would just go, why would you stop? If you're getting laughs, why would you stop? And you can go on as long as you want. You are free to keep going if you want. Where in theater, it was always about, dosing the acting with a little bit of comedy, but not too much. And this was someone telling me, screaming even, keep going. And I remember on the second day saying, I don't care if I get the part. I want to do this now. Feels so right. And that's what happened. And then I did get cast in the show and continue working with Michelle for the creation. And then I just never stopped after that.
So it sounds like, so you came into that workshop without really much or any experience of clowning, and it was an audition, and you learned what clowning was at the audition.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Was there anything else there? I'm curious about these concepts that Michelle was bringing. So you mentioned, this idea of just doing more or going more, keep going if it's something's funny. Was there anything else that stands out that you remember that you sort of, like a light bulb?
Yeah. That being an idiot was celebrated. The world was inverted, and it was just, he would look at somebody on stage and go, oh no, isn't that wonderful? You're a real imbecile. You're a genuine, real, bona fide imbecile. And you can't help but laugh, because the way it was addressed was also saying, we completely see how human you are, and I think that is one of the arts of clowning, is to reveal yourself as a human being with faults and with pimples and with whatever. And this whole idea of being perfect and successful is for other people, and it's too much of a weight in some way, and unfair, where us clowns, we're taking advantage of all of us, all parts of us.
So how do you balance this notion of clowning as kind of revealing yourself, warts and all, and then on the other hand, the craft of making a performance that's funny and effective?
Well, there's hard work to go into it, for sure, for sure. But I mean, for example, that's I sort of, my process is a little bit of always back and forth. There's some things I plan on paper and in discussion with others and go, that's a great idea. That's a theme that interests me. And then I'll go into a studio and play around. And if I'm really at play, it doesn't turn out exactly the way I've written, even can go very differently. And I also, any accidents that happen and cause the colleagues to laugh are to be kept, and to be say, like, why is that? Why? Oh, of course, yeah. So, but I also think it's not only about accidents and clowning. There's so many different things that are beautiful about human beings. So it's not just it, but accidents. I remember trying to do a song for colleagues, and I put a CD on back in CD days, and it kept skipping, and my friends were howling, laughing, and I'd go, no, this is not my act, no. And they thought it was the greatest act they'd ever seen, that I never even note, but
I love it. The happy accident.
The happy accident, yeah. But I mean, yeah, as I say, I think that's only one thing that clowns can benefit from, but it's
So you came into, what was the first show, first Cirque show where you did get cast?
Dralion.
Dralion.
It was directed by Guy Caron, and Michel Dallaire was the clown director, and it was a learning experience under a lot of pressure in some way, because it was a big premiere, and a lot of things didn't work right away. So that was a learning through flop, is a really challenging but very enriching experience.
Yeah, could you say more about that? What is a flop when it comes to for you? How do you define that?
I think it's well, that's a really good question, because I think it's when I am touched by when the audience isn't amused or enjoying what we are doing or not understanding what we're doing, but it's also where I lose confidence.
Mm.
You can deal with all sorts of situations in play, I believe, and you can share, oops, this doesn't feel good. You can, if you can transpose that and share that in a playful way to the audience, that can be part of a routine. But I think the flops were when I really lost confidence and sense of play, and really just couldn't understand. I lost touch with myself, and and just was panicking a little bit. And
Yeah.
I remember there was an act that wasn't working, and we'd sit backstage, sad, just knowing we're going to go on stage to do this act that didn't work, and we couldn't figure out a way to fix it. And it was an act where we had to stay on stage until they put a red light or this light, because they were setting up a trapeze. So we had to stay, even though it was bombing. And there was times when the audience would say, exit, go, bye, boo. It was just, and we couldn't, because we had to wait for the setup to be finished. And I remember one day just going, exploding and just going, okay, we're going to change the whole thing. I was backstage. We had a coffin. And I said, okay, this is going to happen. You're going to smack me. I'm going to fall in the coffin. And then I'm going to rise out like a mummy. And I'll chase you off, everybody off stage. And then I'll just improvise until the light goes on. And it was just sort of like, we'll go to base physical. Our other plan wasn't working. And everybody said, okay. And that seemed to get some laughs and put us in survival mode, you know. But
Wow.
yeah.
And this was in Dralion.
Yeah. Eventually,
Wow.
because it was very bad. But
this is really cool to hear the story, because, you know, I think, you know, it sounds like there was a lot of play. I mean, failure, but also like playfulness and flexibility to try different things. And I feel like maybe that's changed over the years. And the stories I've heard with Cirque now, it's kind of a little bit more rigid and fixed. Like the clowns don't necessarily have the freedom to just kind of try stuff out.
Well, it was a really, I mean, I think with big projects, there is less flexibility. Big machines have all these parts. One thing that we got very lucky with was one of the artistic directors was Roch Jutra, who was a clown or is a clown. So he had this openness, but I mean, at the same time, there was a lot of rigidity to it. And I could have been, you know, I could have been scolded for having done that, but because it was funny, they came and they said, good effort, way to go, good for you. So, but I just feel that situation of flop, and the other times it's happened to me, I had to kind of dig deeper in a place in me that I didn't know existed. I don't know where certain things come from, and so in hindsight, you go, that was a good experience, even though it was difficult.
Yeah, great. I love your definition of flop that you gave us there, Joe. It was really really nice. You know, sort of panic, almost like the panic sets in, right? You lose confidence in what you're doing. It's not the controlled or I'm not saying that failure for a clown that's on stage and deliberate is not necessarily controlled. I mean, it can be,
What? Yeah,
it can be difficult, but it's like deliberate. There's an intentionality with it.
and I think it's about openness and being closed. So I can lose control in a very silly, open way and improvise, and certain things have happened that went great like that. But I'm talking about when I feel a flop happens is when I close, and I'm not as generous as I normally am. And audiences kind of scratch their head because they don't understand what's going on. Why isn't, you know, and so I've had some of those experiences, and they're usually big lessons.
It's interesting that type of audience reaction, like that's quite common in clowning, I think, to, you know, when it's not working, is to be like, scratch head. What is going on? Like there's a kind of, there's something missing, or there's some clarity that's missing. Maybe the clown is trying to be too complicated or too clever or too funny, or bring in too many ideas, and the audience is just not able to quite get on board with it and follow it. And the job is somehow to simplify and get, as you said, get back down to the essence or the fundamentals of something, to make it clean and clear.
Yeah, I think it's a personal case for each kind of clown. I mean, absurdity is funny sometimes because we don't understand. But I tend to think with me that they can follow all my thoughts together on this voyage, and when I shut down, I'm not, I'm not at play, and I'm not open, and I think that's sort of where people go, I thought I understood, but now I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you get in your head, and then your thoughts are panicking thoughts about what is going on, and you don't want the audience to see that, so you start to sort of put up all the barriers. And
and you're not sharing anything anymore. I mean, that's one of the things I liked about what Michelle taught, or what I work with, is that no matter what the clown attempts to do on stage, it's just a pretext to share who they are and share that inner world and that inner monologue, and that's the attaching part of them doing a stupid trick.
Yeah, I love that philosophy. Is that how you teach clown yourself now?
Yeah. There's many things that I've had a couple people say to me after watching my show. They go, "Wow, your jokes are terrible, but people love you and they love what you're doing." And I kind of go, "Thank you." You know,
I
it's
love that.
state I'm in, or the state of play, or the state of generosity. The laughter I'm having myself over the simplest things is what communicates stronger than, I don't know, well composed gags and jokes. Those are good to have for sure, but yeah.
It's almost like the clown is like a bad comedian, right? We don't need the comedy to be high end funny. It's because it's not about that, as you say. It's about the excuse to connect, and to connect on this more human level.
It's about the character rather than their jokes, I think.
Yeah, my clown teacher, my original clown teacher, Sue Morrison, she would say something very similar to that. Like, do you know who you are? It's not about what you do, it's about who you are when you do it. And sometimes things aren't funny, not because the gag is timed wrong or something, but because you don't know, you're not being clear who you are. The character, in other words.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's and that knowing more and more who your character is. I mean, that's the other thing that from the school of clowning I'm from, is that, who is this character of the clown? And as an actor, you would get, script of Romeo. I'm going to read all about, Romeo does this and doesn't say that, but people say that about him, and you learn all sorts of elements from the playwright about who Romeo is. So who is this clown character that we are? Is an important question. And the way we find it, I think, is through finding out who we are when we're at play, when we're ridiculous, and having fun playing in improv and on stage, and certain things emerge that we have an image of ourselves often of what we would like to be, or even society would like us to be. And I think who we are as this ludicrous version of ourselves is much more enormous.
Yeah, beautiful. So Dralion, you went from Dralion to other Cirque projects. What came next?
I left the show and moved to France to be with my now wife. We were both in Dralion at the beginning of the creation, and then she left at one point, and I stayed on tour. And at one point, I decided I had enough of touring, and wanted to be with her and discover what was going on in clown in other parts of the world. And also part of the deal was I had to sort of leave what I had created. Everything that was in Dralion belonged to Cirque du Soleil, including my costume. Everything was there, was created for that show. So I had to start again. And one of the first things, I went back to a clown workshop with Michelle. It was one of the first things I did. And I started to make some shows of my own. And then I was fortunate. I remember almost right away, Michelle had directed this show in Spain with a company called Los Galindos, a street performing circus. And they were in their third season, and their clown had decided to stop, and they were looking for replacement. And I I learned the show in 3 days and then went on tour with them, town to town in Spain and in France and Belgium and once in Finland. And I mean, what a great time. What a great level of clowning, and clowning outdoors in the street was much different from what I had experienced in theater. And yeah, it was just I just think my education in clowning came from performing live in different circumstances and just continued.
What did you, I'm curious if there's anything that you can point to or remember that you specifically learned from that street experience that maybe then you brought back into your other work.
That's a good question. I mean, I just have stories. I don't know if I can say, oh, that's it. You know, there was a largeness and cartoonness to what they were doing, because it was 360 people. It was a circus show, and I walked into their style. So there was things that I had to learn very quickly, like do that little routine with the other clown, but then you've got to run and pick up a crash mat because the trapezist will be landing in seconds. And it was just all of this. It was a giant slapstick show, basically. And it was so much fun. And I learned it in 3 days in Spanish and French mixed up in Catalonian. And I remember no one had told me the premise of the show, which was the clowns were in the way. So I had barely memorized it. And on the first show we did, I ran out to do something, and everybody went, no, and said stage. So I left, and then they grabbed me. They were like, get back. No, you're. So it was this whole confusion where I really was doing the show lost, because they were kept no at me, but yes, and then they had a meeting and they were like, it's not bad the fact that we just throw Joe around. Let's keep that part. It was, you know, it was a really, really.
Oh, really, that's great.
And I remember Marcel, who runs the troupe. I remember one of the first moments there was a microphone on stage, and he was one of the first to enter, and he stood at the microphone and smiled, and he got a big laugh, and I just kept going, he didn't do anything. How did he do that? You know? And I just realized it's just experience. And I don't know. I still don't know how he did it, but I have once in a while those moments where you have to feel confident in. I don't know how to put this other than I remember one day a friend telling me, going, Joe, don't forget, you're 4'10", you're bald, you're very interesting to look at, you know, because I have a tendency to overwork it, I think, and lay it on too thick. And a friend was like, don't forget, there's a lot to take in about you. And so I think there was some confidence that he had that was really a lot to learn from. Yeah.
Yeah. Were there, are there moments from that tour that stand out? I mean, that one story you told about not realizing you were supposed to be in the way and being thinking that was real is excellent. But I'm sure that lots of crazy things happened to you on that tour.
Yeah. I just found also, I think in general too, is like I left a situation at Cirque du Soleil where I was in the spotlight and successful and had just begun, and I heard many stories from other people saying, oh, clowning on the street is tougher. Oh, well, you're that, don't forget there's many more clowns out there. So the fact that I was now starting and working with people that I suddenly were like, wow, they're really good, you know. And so that was
felt like an apprenticeship all over again in some ways, maybe.
Remember, we would, you'd set up the show in the afternoon. It was wonderful. Like, I remember like these kids arriving on bikes going, what are you guys doing? And then they said, we're doing a circus show at 7 p.m. And then they took off on their bikes and knocked door to door going, hey, everybody, there's a circus at 7 p.m. You know, I just love that. And then we'd clean up afterwards. And I remember we'd put our sweaty costumes in a box with these hangers. And someone said to me, hey, Joe took like 4 hangers. We're only allowed 2 hangers. And I remember saying, when I was in Cirque du Soleil, I had as many hangers as I would.
Is that still going, that Los Galindos?
Beth and Marcel. I think it's Marcel. The last I heard is, I don't know if the company name is still there. I think so, but the last I heard is he's in a show with two other clowns, and I think the premise is they're being tried for murder because they made someone die laughing. Something.
Great. I love it. So then did you come back to Cirque after that, Joe?
I did. At that point, I would sub in once in a while. If I would get called, and I got called to go into O a couple of times and sub in for 2 weeks, and that was, and I subbed in on Volta. I mean, I actually loved that situation. You weren't joining the army and going on tour for full lengths and all of that. You were just popping in and playing around, and to replace someone and do their character, like I had to do Leonid's character, and their lights that I clowns. It's like full makeup, big red nose, big shoes, kind of, and to learn a little bit their approach was very interesting.
Yeah.
And then find a way. At one point, I started to do my own thing with it, and it wasn't working. And I was like, no, just do the routine and the voice he has, and just really walk in those shoes. Yeah.
I guess your acting skills probably came in handy there as well, right? Like the ability to just technically reproduce something.
Yeah. But then there was a lot of play. I met Voki Kalfai there. He was replacing Clown, and I mean, that's a funny story. I remember that there was pre-show animation in O, and they said to us, you have to do exactly what they do in the routines, but before the show, you guys can sort of do what you want in the audience. And we said, do you have a little light to show us when the show is starting? And they said, no. Why do we need a little light? And we did like 20 minutes of animation, just when instead of 5 minutes, we ended up just throwing popcorn around and we just improvised.
And then we're like, we're going to have a light from now on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's the reason that you need a light, because the clowns will just play forever.
But it was an artist behind the curtain said we could hear the roars of laughter, and we just felt we had to do a better show after that. So that's
I'm just going to come to the chat here for a moment, because we've got some lovely people here in the chat. Hi, everybody. We've got somebody from South Africa, Agent ND. I don't know if that's your actual name. We've got Natalie from Vancouver in Canada, and from Barcelona, though. Ricky Taraskis, I think you're in the UK, maybe Ricky, I'm not totally sure. Tatiana in Vienna. Somebody's asking if anyone else is from Portugal. That's N4NV. Anyone from Portugal? Anyone from Portugal? Not hearing anything. Do you hear anything, Joe? Any?
Bom dia.
Bom dia? What does that mean?
Bom dia is a good day.
Oh, okay. I should have guessed that. I think it's possible, Agent ND says, I think it's possible to have many hearts. Oh, to have multiple hearts for different paths. Hearts for different paths. I'm confused. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, Agent ND, but it sounds very poetic. Hearts, hats. The heart on your sleeve could always be a card sewn on there. It's very metaphorical. The heart on the sleeve.
It's cost. I better start sewing. That's what it is.
Look, I'm going to put this up here because it's quite curious. I don't know if you can read that on your device there, Joe. I think it's possible to have multiple hearts for different paths. Also, the heart on your sleeve always could be a card sewn on there.
Well, let's spend the next half hour deciphering this philosophical phrase. I think it is referring to different projects you do. If I'm replacing somebody, I mean, that's the way I'm taking it, is that there's something to love about it all. One thing I've not talked about is, like, I would say the biggest chapter of my clown career is with Teatro Zinzanni.
Oh gosh, we have to talk about Zinzanni. Yeah. What was your route into there? What was the first thing you did with them?
Well, I had done a show in Switzerland alongside Veronin, this magician, and he was working constantly in these Palazzo dinner shows. And I eventually got hired to do one of those in a different show and started doing a couple of those in Germany. And to be honest, I wasn't very impressed or loved the shows. The ones now, Palazzo now, I think are much more quality, but back in the day, I think the one I did wasn't very good. And um, but some artists I worked with on one show wrote me and said, "We're in Zinzani, and you've got to get down here. It's a really good show." And I started with them in 2007, I think, and I walked in and I knew, I said, "This is home." I just sort of uh, started playing around, and it really is like this sandbox. It's based on the Pomp, Duck, and Circumstance, the dinner show where you are a waiter or a busboy or a dishwasher or maitre d, and the whole place. You're playing with the hierarchy of the restaurant, and you've got meal services where in between there's circus acts, and while people are eating, you're improvising in character, going table to table, and just it it was a sandbox each time, and I had numbers. I had created this new number where I do a parody of the film King Kong, and that seemed to work really well there. And but they also said you can also do whatever you want. So each time back, I would say, "Oh, I want to sing a song. I have a new idea," and you could make scenes with all the other characters, and it just was just a real delight, and it really was funny. Everybody was funny, and that was really enriching. Anyway, I just to surmise that it was that I went back there probably every season for 3 4 months.
Wow, it's amazing. And then you followed that back. Do you do Zinzani back in the States, or was that in Europe?
That was all in the States. So they in my family also they would say bring your family, and we will make sure you have housing and everything. They treated us really well, and it was yeah, it just kept becoming the best choice among different offers. It was like, well, no, let's go back to Zinzani. It's still the best choice, and yeah, so that was. But I also had time to do other projects on the side.
Mm. Oh, and so yeah, so alongside that, or at some point, you were also helping some of the clowns, right? Like doing some directing for the clown
Yeah,
routines.
yeah. A couple of times I was called in to consult on the remake of a number, or um, in yeah, it depends on the situation. But Ka was also, they had a clown director, but he had to be absent for a month, so I went in and worked with the clowns, and and with Robert Lepage, and then yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
It's such a, I mean, a lot of people would die for that opportunity to work with Cirque du Soleil, and it's been a thread. It sounds like running through your career whilst you've done all these other things. You've been able to create a really wonderful sort of weaving together in your career of many different threads. It seems
I
like it's worked out really well.
it it's inspiring. Cirque du Soleil productions are inspiring, but they're major giant spectacles, and
Yeah.
an element in that giant show. And I feel also that my brother said that once you started in a big show, and you just seem to get simpler as you advance in your career. But I think I do prefer intimate performances and simpler performances. Although when you make people 2,500 people laugh on a Cirque du Soleil stage, it's a gas. I'm telling you. But I think the creation periods are different than smaller shows, I think.
So what about Water for Elephants then? That was another big moment for you.
Yeah. Well, that was like kind of fate in some way, where I took this Broadway show that was about a traveling circus in the Depression era, and one of the characters was Walter, this little person who was the clown of the show, and uh, the Shana Carroll of Seven Fingers was the circus choreographer on the project, and they had meetings about who could we possibly get, to play this character Walter. And then she's sort of said, "You don't know who Joe DePaul is? You should call him." And it was a great meeting of who I am fitting into a show. That was it was an acting role. It was great to return to being an actor behind fourth wall and to play along extremely talented people.
Mm.
And then at a certain point, our the show required a front of curtain moment to while they set up backstage, and Jessica Stone said, "Do you want to create a small clown routine?" And she offered some ideas, and I offered some ideas, and I improvised, and I just remember the first day performing it for the cast, and people falling out of their chairs. Just that's you know that was my thing that I could really.
I'm noticing a theme here, like you're part of these big shows, but then the sort of the real juice is these almost like extra moments where you get to be before the show or during, but in front of the curtain, or these much more intimate, free moments of freedom and play. And that it sounds like that's really where your passion is in some ways.
Yeah, yes, I have a preference for that, where I get to be my class, me, and but I would have to say that being alongside, being back in the fourth wall situation with Water for Elephants, and being surrounded by talented singers, dancers. I mean, they could do everything, and it was intimidating, but I found myself getting back into the enjoyment of interpreting a role as an actor. Yeah.
Mm. And now Tyler's in that role, right? Tyler West, who we had on a few weeks ago.
Yes. Yes. They're very fortunate to have him. He's a really
Yeah,
talented. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he was talking about quite a lot about the show and your influence on him and how inspiring, his connection to you was. So it's nice to have that.
Oh yeah. I'm very pleased that also that role is being honored by hiring a little person who's a clown. I mean,
Right.
that's what the role requires. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of inspiring people, you're also, a big part of what you do now is teaching and passing on this legacy. And that's just to me, it seems like such an important element of what we're all doing right now. I guess especially after we've got a few years under our belts, it's like how do we nurture, encourage, and bring this art forward in the world so that it grows and lives and doesn't stagnate. And I'm curious about how you think about teaching. Like, what is it you're trying to teach? And can you give us some insights into how you're passing this torch of clowning on?
Well, I teach in various settings, but one of the ones is I teach in the theater department at Concordia University. I also teach at the National Circus School, and I think it's for actors, young actors, to have to encounter themselves. You
Mm.
cannot encounter yourself when you're doing clown. I think is extremely important for their development, and also um, to the listening required, I believe, required in clowning is you really have to honor impulses you have, emotional impulses and reactions, and I think all those things are fodder for routines. And uh, I sort of tell them like it's. Yeah, I notice that certain things I do with them, I go, I think you're all comfortable doing this because I tell you what to do. You can get to do things. And other exercises where for a long time, I'm getting them to do very simple things where all they get to do on stage is say, hello, my name is. So it is just reactivity and being expressive. And I sort of feel like Michel Dallaire says, clowns prefer expression over results. And I believe that. So it's really asking them to honor everything that's coming from them from the moment they enter from behind the curtain till they get to the center and say, hello, my name is. And so that whole, I think a clown routine is a voyage. It's not a thing that you go do. It's a voyage from when you leave the curtain to when you exit.
Beautiful. Maria says, you teach, would love to be your student. What do you teach sort of public workshops? Because this teaching you're doing right now is in a university, right?
Yeah.
Do you teach publicly in a way that people listening right now could come and take a workshop with you?
I don't very much, but I would like to start. I mean, I usually would basically have a life on tour and a show, and then come back and teach at the university and stay in Montreal. But I wouldn't mind organizing workshops. Yeah, if anybody out there wants a workshop, let's get in touch, and we'll organize one for where you are, and I'll go do it. Yeah.
Okay, Maria. I know Maria. She's in Chicago, I think. So,
oh,
I imagine you have some people in Chicago as well. I bet you could pull together a pretty good workshop.
oh yeah, that's true. That's why I played with Cincinnati many times.
Yeah. What are you working on at the moment, Joe? And artistically, are you creating any work at the moment?
Well, between the hours of teaching, I have a show with Tim Tyler, who's a clown name is Mr. Peepee. So we've had a show for a while now called Thank God for Tim and Joe. And when we're not on cabaret contracts, we book it and do tours. So these variable hats as artistic director, as booking manager, all of that stuff is challenging. And we'd like more bookings because it's a terrific show. Oh, Maria, one of the places that I spoke to was the Goodman Theater in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And they're interested, but we're waiting for a response. So Maria, go down to the Goodman and knock on the door and ask them when they're going to have the Tim and Joe show and see what they say.
The Tim and Joe show. I thought it was Thank Goodness for Tim and Joe.
Thank God for Tim and Joe. Yeah.
Thank God.
It's had a lot of titles.
The Tim and Joe show sounds good though as well. What is it about?
It's about two old vaudevillians who are a duo and their last ditch attempt to realize their dream to go to Broadway one day.
Oh, beautiful.
And the first scene you see is the both of us backstage, kind of freaking out before we go on stage. And then right before we start, we go, let's just cancel. Let's just not do it. Let's give up on our dream right away. And then the music starts and we launch into the show, and you see us do our variety show and little moments where it breaks down and doesn't end up where we thought it would be. But I think the message of the show is maybe where you ended up is the dream. The fact that you attempted a dream is the right place to be.
That you just went out there and gave it your best shot.
Yeah. That's where I think that you see the friendships start to break and get back together, and things broke down. We used to improvise into new routines and yeah. There's a lot of themes of like how we're totally different and what it's like to be different. And at one point I say I was a fool to think that Broadway would ever accept someone who looked like me. And Tim would say, because you're fat. And I go, no, because I'm small. I'm not fat. And he go, yeah, you're kind of fat too. Like, just and then, do you think I'm fat? And then we get some answers, yes and no. But
do you think, have you had clown partners like that before, or is this a sort of a newer thing?
Very good question, Barnaby. I've always had some kind of clown partner. I think I lack confidence in some way or feel more comfortable in a duo. I have done solo work, but even when I'm doing solo work, at Zanzibar, a big thing is to have people from the audience come up and work with, and so I gravitated towards at least having somebody up with me on stage. My King Kong number is solo, but I do love playing off of somebody else.
Yeah. And do you normally play like a lower or higher status, or you can switch?
I think it depends who is my partner.
Yeah.
And what age I'm growing into more of an authoritarian figure. I think when I was younger, I was really red clown, and uh, I remember explaining to my students when I was first starting, I could look back on those videos and you can see me wanting the audience to love me and accept me. And now that I'm older, I did a show called Placebo, a one-man show, and at my at that place, I was no longer asking people to love me and accept me in the same way, because
Yeah.
I wasn't the cute little clown that started. I was now middle-aged, and yeah.
There is something really interesting about the parallels between our clown lives and our real lives. Like the thing of partners, in life, there are people who feel more comfortable always in a relationship, right? In a partner, somebody to kind of go through life alongside makes them feel safer. And there's other people who can't really cope with other people and sharing life with another person, that they want to be on their own, and it's the same in clown. I feel like some people just kind of feel more comfortable solo. Some people need that partner there.
Yeah. Well, I think I think the combination of you and your partner bring out different aspects of you. And I sort of say to my students, like, there are many aspects to your clown character as there are to you. So that allows you to grow into your clown. Like, it's a long journey to, if you think of it that way, then your clown character has a whole lifetime. And the time I've worked with some people sometimes where they'll say, my clown character doesn't do that, and I'll just say, that's too bad. You've deprived your clown character of something fun.
Yeah, your clown can do anything. I always say, it's just how they do it, how they feel about it might be different.
And if they do it awkwardly, maybe that's even a gold mine of fun. That's
yeah, right. There's an interesting comment here. Sometimes I worry that people only like me because I'm cute and young. I worry that they don't like me for what I really am. Gosh, that's so layered, isn't it? Like, you are. I mean, who are you really? It's a really challenging question.
Well, you're not always cute, and you won't always be young. And I mean, I think that people in clown too is audiences are identifying with clowns, and they're allowed to live through mistakes and silly moments and embarrassment, and they're allowed to sort of vacate themselves of those problems because they're watching you go through them. So I don't it's really hard to you have to work at being available for those times when you're unattractive, because we are all. And then what is attractive? I mean, who sets those rules? That's
yeah. Well, that get into complex psychological territory there, and sociological territory, because I mean, it's sort of out of our control, and I suppose, the challenge is when we stand in front of an audience, we tend to want to show the nice, the cute, the attractive, the successful, and clowns have to somehow learn in our training through workshops or whatever it is. We have to, as you say, learn that to allow the other side to be seen.
Yeah, there's a freedom in that. I think there's a freedom in that, in being stupid, being inefficient. There's a great freedom in being inefficient. I mean, so and those things are a delight, actually. To see a clown benefit from that freedom is a real delight.
Yeah. Before we finish, I just want to put this up. Somebody says, yes, please. This is about workshops. You could come to Vancouver, Canada, or Italy. I started a bit of clown in Mexico. So Natalie Sands, if you want to get in touch with Joe, you can always do that via me, via Clown Spirit. on Facebook or email me, and then I can put you in touch with Joe if you really are interested in, you know, hosting a workshop. And that goes for anybody listening. Like if you ever think, oh, I'd love to have Joe or one of my other guests teach a workshop or do a show, and you need to get in touch with them, I can always be the bridge for that. Dana Fripp says, clown menopause. I'm working my hot flashes into my character. She says, they're going to show up anyway, so...
Exactly. Yeah. I'm having one now. Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. You've set off, Dana. Empathetic hot flashes. Joe, it's been a real delight talking to you. And, you know, I feel like all your answers and the way you talk about clowning is just so thoughtful.
Oh, good.
There's a sort of a depth to it that I really, really appreciate. And the breadth of experience that you have is magnificent and is clearly inspiring people in the chat to want to work with you. So thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. And please stay in touch, and good luck with all your amazing clown work.
Thank you, Barnaby, and keep up this great podcast and the events you're organizing. It's wonderful.
Fabulous. Appreciate it. Thanks, Joe. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
All right. Wasn't that great, everybody? So many gems, pearls of clown wisdom. And, you know, I often, as I'm doing these conversations, I feel like I just want to be able to pluck some of those out and sort of draw attention to them somehow. And sometimes we do that when we have time to, you know, literally trim down and clip down and turn them into reels and so on. But often that work is quite time consuming and difficult, and we're very busy. So if anybody listening has those skills and is interested in lending some of those skills, those editing skills to Clown Spirit to do that, because, you know, there are a dozen things that Joe said there that would make wonderful, like, you know, 30-second words of wisdom, pearls of clown wisdom that we could share in different social media and so on. So yeah, open invitation there. Anybody wants to do some work for us. Dana, thank you. Thank you so much. You rock too. Thanks, everybody. Beautiful to have you here. Oh, let me just tell you, though, next week we have a really cool conversation because I have two guests, and we're going to have a conversation between Abby Pleviak and Robin Hambrook. Both of those wonderful, powerful clown women are doing work in the area of activism and clowning. Robin in the UK and Abby in the US. They are both mobilizing human beings and clowns to get more involved with activism and protest, but using the tools of clowning, kind of in the true spirit, you know, of much clowning through the 20th century, and particularly drawing inspiration from the clandestine insurgent rebel clown army, Cirque, which, if you don't know who they are, go look them up. And it's going to be a really cool conversation talking about activism and clowning and the wonderful work that enables. And hopefully there'll be some opportunities for you to find out what they're doing that you can get involved with as well. It's what we need, right? So thank you so much for being here, everybody. See you next week for another Clown-versation. Bye for now. It's just a conversation with a fellow clown. It's not very serious, we're clowning around. It's really just a Clown-versation.